Hi, everybody. It is Sarah Lauk, the host of Unmuzzled, a podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm bringing Dr. Bean right in. First of all, the countdown music, boring, lame. My open music is more Dr. Bean's speed. He likes that like upbeat music. Dr. Bean.
I do. I like it upbeat. Hey, if I can dance to it, I will like it.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody, if you've been following me on Instagram, you know that Dr. Bean is Miss Mabel's vet. He was also Mac's vet, and he is the wonderful Einstein's vet as well. So Dr. Bean gets blessed with the myriad of crazy animals that we bring into this house, and I appreciate you so much.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do it. Sometimes, in the back of my mind, I'm like, where does she find these animals that she's bringing in here? But I mean, little Mac obviously was, had a piece of our hearts, and Miss Mabel is newer to the family, but I know she is, carrying on little Mac's legacy, I think, very, very well.
Yeah, Mac was one of those dogs that was. He was like a lightning rod, like your friends, I know, they either loved him or they're like, what's up with this alien type dog? But you loved him and you gave him the best care until the very end. And I appreciate that too so much. And then, of course, we bring Mabel along, who is even more of a mess than Mac was. And just she gets the best care at Boulevard Vet. We're so thankful. And then the biter dog that has no teeth, thankfully, you have also done great by him. So we appreciate it so much.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you never judge a book by its cover. I think especially, Mac and Mabel, they didn't have the easiest upbringing. They had kind of maybe a rough start, but that doesn't mean that they're not sweet, loving dogs who are, they have their issues, obviously, but otherwise are still living happy, healthy lives, despite what some uneducated people may think just by looking at them.
That's very true. What's best about Dr. Bean and Boulevard Vet is I will go in there and there will be like the most adorable doodle puppy, and they'll be the most beautiful purebred Rottweiler or Golden, and then I bring them a 2-pound dog. So they have a nice majority. They also help with Live Like Roo, so that's really obviously important to me. Boulevard Vet in River North is our Live Like Roo vet, but Dr. Dillon allows us to go anywhere. So if I do have a difficult medical case, Dr. Bean also gets that too. So anyway, I wanted to have a podcast where Dr. Bean could answer some of your questions. But before we get there, Dr. Bean, I know, I've interviewed you a bunch of times, one for just video series that we did. But for you, what is your background? Did you grow up having a lot of animals? How did you get into this field?
Yeah, so I think like every veterinarian, of course, I grew up loving animals. I think probably the number one thing I tell people who are interviewing in vet school is to not say, I love animals. That does not set you apart. That is just kind of the basic prerequisite for being a vet. All of us love animals. But I grew up with family pets. I had cats, dogs, guinea pigs, gerbils, fish. I went to my kind of small town zoo daily just to see the animals that I would love. And so that's kind of how it all started. And then when I got a little bit older in high school, when you start thinking about what you want to do when you grow up, and what you want to do and where you're going to go from there. I was always into science. I liked math. So I did a little bit of work or like volunteer work at like human hospitals. And I felt, that was fun. It was nice. I liked parts of it, but, it was a little too, not for me, I would say. But, I had a neighbor that was a veterinarian, so I volunteered at their clinic a little bit more. I liked that. They hired me on as like an assistant or like a technician type role and kind of trained me up. And so I worked there in the summers when I was done from college. And that's really how I got really into it. And then, from there, I definitely decided that I wanted to be a doctor and be a vet. So applied right into vet school from college, got into the Ohio State University, did 4 years there, and been practicing almost 9 years now, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, 9 years. And I feel like it's probably flown by for you.
It does not feel like 9 years at all. I think I was talking this past weekend, the doctors at Boulevard, we had our kind of like yearly dinner where we all get together at like a restaurant and kind of just see each other outside of work. And Dr. Peters and I, who started at Boulevard around the same time, almost 7 years ago, our anniversary is coming up at work, and we were like, it does not feel like 7 years at all in this place.
Yeah, which I think says a lot about Boulevard Vet. We talk a lot about vets and just, being a mom and pop shop. And I will tell you, when I say that, sometimes I feel like people think it's like, an archaic mom and pop vet, but Boulevard is anything but. Like, they have state of the art everything. They have new everything. They're constantly evolving. It's not, all wooden cabinet mom and pop in a strip mall type vet. It is very much modernized, but it is owned by the same person and run by the same person, all of the vets. And I think that is so important in this day and age. What's great about Boulevard, and sorry, I'm just going to do an advertisement for Boulevard right now, but it's like, even during COVID, I would be in constant communication with Dr. Bean in my car when Mac had some kind of thing going on. And they do a really good job of explaining everything, clearly, because even though I am around, rescue and vets a lot and medical, I don't understand everything. And then if you take somebody that is not as well versed as me in the vet med area, it is sometimes hard to understand with, what's going on with your pet. And what I always say about Boulevard is it starts as soon as you walk in and talk to the front desk. Everybody cares. And then, you can, if you want to talk to Dr. Dillon, you can talk to him, and I love that part of it. When you go to these other vets that have been, under this corporate umbrella, I can't even get an itemized receipt from a surgery where we paid for $5,300. It's insane that I have to go and call, So I love that part of it. I think you're a big part of that. That's why you're the medical director now at the Lakeview location. But do you want to say anything to that? Because I think it is really amazing that it has stayed this, smaller.
Yeah. I mean, the veterinary field in general, I could talk about how that's changed since I've started, the whole podcast here, but I don't think people want to hear that. But I mean, like you said, probably when I started, graduated from vet school, the majority of vet clinics were privately owned by, one or two owners, smaller, on the smaller scale, but still, again, still a lot of times state of the art. They have a lot of advanced diagnostics, but again, privately owned. And I mean, since then, especially in the cities, especially in Chicago, these corporate private equity firms have really, built, these, big, big practices that, I don't want to get into trouble, but I do think that, these corporate practices, there was an article, I think a little while ago in some major publication, but basically saying that, they think that these private equity firms are a large reason why vet care is, increasing costs so much. Care is potentially suffering. And I'm not saying, I know many amazing veterinarians that work at these kind of corporate clinics who are fantastic veterinarians and care very much. But I think the corporate structure just makes it so it's harder to have that kind of more maybe personal touch. And I think Boulevard, like you said, we're privately owned. We have 4 locations throughout the Chicagoland area, and I mean, like you said, you're in contact with Dr. Dillon whenever you want to be. You can email him; he's right there. So I think that has been a big shift, and as far as I know, Boulevard is still one of the very few privately owned clinics in the Chicago area, as opposed to all these kind of corporate entities. It's been a big change, and I'm not, not positive that it's always for the better.
Yeah, I agree, and I think too, like what you just said about, having the ability to talk to your vet and have a conversation, or have a worry, and not feeling bad about that, and not, you're paying good money, obviously, for vet services. You should be able to talk to who you want to, when you want to. I think that part of it is important too. If people are paying so much money for vet care and they're not able to get the answers, or, again, this is me talking, this has nothing to do with Dr. Bean, swaying you in to do some surgery when maybe there are some other options because it's all about corporate greed. Like, that's really tough to take. And I think I see that a lot because of, we're dealing obviously with specialty vets with a cancer diagnosis, and we're very careful with the vets that we use locally, obviously, for specialties. But people want to hear options when you're facing something that could cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. And, that option may include euthanasia if that's the best choice. But I think, to be able to have an honest conversation with a vet is so key when you're spending money. So I do appreciate that. I know we've talked about this too before a lot, compassion fatigue, especially in your field. I talked about this with Dr. Josie too, who used to be at Boulevard. I know she's a good friend of yours, but she does a lot of now concierge vet. And so she's dealing, unfortunately, with a lot of, in-home euthanasia. She's seeing a pet, through. But the compassion fatigue of it all, because, your days are long. A lot of times it's not easy cases. It's not all just, a yearly physical for the pet. How do you kind of deal with that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, it can be challenging where sometimes one appointment I have is a quality of life discussion with a client that I've been seeing for years, and their pet's doing poorly, and we're kind of planning the end of their life there. And then my next appointment could be a first puppy, very excited to be there. And so, I mean, I think you have to learn to kind of leave it in the exam room sometimes. You can't always take your emotions and kind of what you're feeling into the next exam room all the time, because the next client is, like we said, sometimes it's their first time coming there. They're very excited. They have a new puppy. They want you to be excited about it. You want to be excited about it. And so I think you do have to kind of compartmentalize a little bit to try to just get through your day. And, I know people do different things to kind of cope with it. But I think, as long as you are still at the end of the day able to still care about things, care about your patients, sometimes finding that empathy can be a little bit more challenging. But I think, you always can try to still say a nice word, or try to be compassionate, even the toughest of times. But again, I think, at least for me, I really try to leave it in the exam room and move on, to kind of just keep moving and, not let it kind of overwhelm you.
And you take some good vacations too.
Oh yeah. I mean, like work-life balance. And I think work-life balance is something that's, luckily, I think this field has been much better at, even since I started, since I graduated, because I think you do need to have a work-life balance, because it, just like every profession, but especially if you're dealing with these really heavy situations, you need time off. I know some shelter veterinarians, if they have a day where they have to, if you're in a kill shelter and you have to euthanize a lot of dogs, sometimes they'll get the next day or two off just because they need that time, because it was a rough day.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you do that. And I think it's so important. It's so important to get the hell out of there for a bit, or out of here, just to get your feelings in check and go dance and have some beach time. It's really important. I need to also take that advice.
Oh yeah, I think everybody does. I think I think you need to take care of yourself before you take care of anybody else's pets or anybody else's. You need to make sure that you're okay before you do that.
Yeah. Okay, so I did ask some people if they wanted, to ask Dr. Bean. It was a very popular segment. I had actually Boulevard Vet ask a question. I don't know if you want to know what it was.
Oh God, I don't want to. What did they say?
How do you stay so smart and so fit?
I mean, after work, you just go to the gym. You can burn off your frustrations. You can let the day go. Sometimes if you have a rough day, it can be very helpful to just work it out, lift some heavy things, do some cardio, so that you physically can feel better. And I mean, staying smart, you got to go to CEs. I think I learn constantly from other veterinarians that I'm working with, and that are around me, because I don't think no one knows everything. No one. And I talked to one of our kind of newer grads. I think she's been out for a year this past weekend at our yearly dinner. And I was like, well, how do you feel now? Do you feel like you understand things? She's like, yeah, I feel more comfortable, but I feel like I'm just like learning something new every day. And I said, that's never going to stop. You are always going to be constantly learning. And I think Boulevard, not to keep like plugging the clinics, but I think we have a really good network of doctors between all the clinics. And if I have a question that I want somebody's opinion on, I can just pick up the phone and call them to, again, get their opinion on something, learn from someone. I think that's a really easy way to just keep learning, keep collaborating. And you will continue to build these good relationships with other doctors too.
Yeah, that's so key. I never really thought of that, but you do have at your disposal like all of these other amazing vets at all the other boulevards, which is it's so cool that you just have them, to bounce things off of. I love that. And I mean, honestly, like what's great too is like what's going on, because we were talking about this flea and tick. What was it called? I forget, Prevecta or something.
The new injection.
Yeah,
the Revecto Quantum is like a new year-long injection for fleas and ticks for dogs.
Which I had no idea about it, even, with all of this that I'm immersed in. And I love that because that's an awesome second option or third option for flea and tick, which, I never even knew about. So, yeah, I love that you're able to bounce ideas off of just that. The whole vet team is amazing. I love them. I'm also missing some still that have left, including some vet techs. But the vet techs,
I am as well.
I know, they're just the best. The OG, some of the OGs, they're my favorites. All right. So anyway, that was a good answer to what was supposed to be a funny question. So whoever runs the Boulevard Vet social media. All right, this is actually a good one. And I get this question too a lot because, my chihuahuas are always shaking. It's just something about chihuahuas. But how can you tell if your pet is in pain?
Yeah, I mean, this is a common question we will get, and it is not an easy answer sometimes. Dogs, and especially cats, I think are experts at hiding pain, hiding disease, hiding discomfort. They don't want you to know that they are not feeling well. Dogs, I think it can be a little bit more obvious. It can be easy things that people will mention, like they're slowing down, they're limping, back or neck pain. They can sometimes just be very stiff all over or not wanting to move a whole lot. But it can be simple things like, they're just not jumping up and down as much as they used to. They're taking a lot slower time on the stairs. Cats, you can look at subtle things like, again, are they kind of going up the stairs differently? Are their eating habits differently? Oral pain is a whole other kind of issue where oral pain in general, pets will not show signs of unless it is very severe. And so I think it can be tough to detect pain or find pain. And that is by design. And, that is the animals, what they want. And so it happens in a lot of cases where people will come in for like limping or pain and the animals are completely normal. And the owners go, I swear she was limping. She was uncomfortable today. And this happens all the time. And I always say, I believe you. I absolutely believe you. You're not just coming in for fun today with your dog. But again, they like to hide pain. When they've got adrenaline going, they'll try to hide it. But yeah, it can be to kind of get back to your question, it can be subtle changes that are just different from their daily routine, whether that is, again, moving slower, less jumping, eating habits changed, sometimes, like you said, shaking, breathing heavier, panting excessively. All those can be kind of signs of pain, and it can be very dependent or different for pets.
Yeah, that's interesting about the oral pain, because we see in a lot of cancer dogs or even cats, like this oral mass will just like all of a sudden like pop up and you're like, wow, how are they eating? Or, and usually, I've seen dogs have to get their jaws removed or a portion of their jaws removed, but most of the times it is just a mass that can be removed. It is like amazing though that they really you don't see it. And you're not every day like looking, except for Mabel, like you're not looking in the dog's mouth every day. So you're not going to see these little like masses popping up between gums. But that's interesting too, because of all the body parts, like you would think they would feel that because they're constantly eating, you know?
You would think, but yeah, I mean, cats especially, I mean, I've seen animals where their teeth are rotting out of their face and they're eating no problem. You know, they still want to eat. I think the dental pain has to be really severe, for them to kind of show like a lot of changes in their in their habits for that. And that can sometimes be difficult to explain to clients when you want to kind of that there's oral pain. I will tell people a lot of times, if this dental lesion, if this dental disease was on a person, you'd be crying to the dentist to squeeze you in tomorrow to get this taken out or fixed. But pets, again, they don't understand that, so they just keep on until the pain is just too much for them.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's something.
Do you want me to turn on a light here? It was lighter when I started this, and now it's like dark, so I don't know if you can see me super well. Okay.
You're okay. No, you're fine. Okay, somebody, I can't remember who asked this. Patricia, maybe. How does having balanced gut biome reduce allergies?
Yes, I mean, I will say in general, like gut biome and GI biome and the just kind of flora in your gut is a kind of big emerging field. I think we're learning a lot more about it than we knew, and we're finding that it is a lot more important than I've been really realizing, before. Again, there's been a lot of, I think, research that, there's looking into the importance of gut biome for allergies, neurologic status and seizures. GI stuff is the most obvious one I think that a lot of people will use. And again, I would not claim to be an expert in probiotics, but the probiotics that are claiming to be able to fix every single little thing, I'm not quite as on board with. Again, I think that the GI biome in the gut flora is very important, and we need to be kind of cognizant of that. But I think it can only go so much in fixing some of these problems. I think if your dog has allergies, severe allergies, or even moderate allergies, a probiotic is likely not going to help them very much. But I think it can be one piece of their treatment plan to kind of, help altogether. And, that might mean we try some probiotics with some, fish oil fatty acids that have been shown to be helpful with things like that. Maybe they do need some sort of actual medication to help, special diets. So again, I would not pin it. I would not pin probiotics to help your severely allergic dog, but it can definitely be something that we add in that could be helpful, because as far as we know, there's no real downside to a lot of these. But again, I'm a little skeptical with people claiming that they're kind of the cure-all for many of these diseases.
Yeah, and interesting. I think a lot of times I get to see things on certain pages like closed groups, but there's so much talk about allergies, because I think that people try as much as they can and nothing works. So they end up in this circle and they don't know what it's coming from. I mean, you can rule out, okay, I'm going to take out chicken. All right, I'm going to take out this. I'm going to see if this works. I'm going to try this. But like, even when Einstein, like, he would not stop itching his paws. And it, I think we figured it out. It was from, being outside. But as soon as he got that cytopoint shot, like, it disappeared. But until I could figure out like what was going to work, I was out of my mind, because you just feel so bad for the dog or cat because they're, itchy or having other reactions. Like it's like what you said about, a dog drinking too much water. It can be like one end of the spectrum or the other end of the spectrum. And it's that in between is so hard.
Oh yeah. I mean, allergies and skin disease is definitely one of the biggest things we see, because clients see it. Clients, like you said, see them itching. They see the lesions on their skin. They see that they are uncomfortable. So, I mean, it is an easy thing for clients to identify, that they bring in to say, what is going on here? And, allergies are not the only cause of itching, but they're a very large cause of itching. And I think a lot of people go crazy trying to find out the exact allergen. Is it chicken? Is it grass? Is it trees? Is it this pollen? Is it human dander? And I think the unfortunate reality that a lot of owners, I think, sometimes struggle to accept is that in most cases, we never know what the allergen is. Unless you're doing allergy-specific testing with a dermatologist, you are not going to be able to figure this out. If there is, a food allergy that you're suspicious of, there are no easy tests where you test their saliva to prove this. I actually watched this CE today on kind of allergic disease, and the dermatologist said, friends don't let friends do serum allergy testing for food allergies because it just doesn't work. And again, that's not the easy answer. That's not the answer that people want to hear, but that is the correct answer. Food allergies, again, I could talk about this all day. People, chicken is a very common offender that people like to accuse, but I think people will jump to chicken very quickly without a lot of real evidence about it. And then structure their whole pet's feeding schedule, diet schedule around something that is not probably what they're allergic to. So it can be, you got to work with people and meet them where they're at to kind of find the solution that works for them.
Yeah, I know we talked a little bit too when I interviewed you before. Just what is kind of the toughest part of your day-to-day?
Oh, yeah. I mean, toughest part, easy answer, but probably not what people think. It is dealing with kind of some, the clients, and that can be more difficult. People always say, oh, euthanasia, I can never do that. I tell people euthanasia is not even in the top 10 hardest things that I do during the day. I think, a lot of people get into this field because they love animals. They want to help the animals. But probably the majority of my job is talking to people, explaining to people what's happening, trying to find a plan with them. There's a lot of communicating with people. And understandably, I think, when your pet's sick, it's very stressful. But I think some clients can be, a little bit more difficult to deal with. They can be borderline abusive, especially to other staff. And that is never fun to deal with. That is not what any of us went to school to do. And that is probably the most thing that can kind of weigh on the staff, the team, if these clients are really not respecting, our time, our expertise, and, if you're, abusing your veterinary staff and, then maybe I think you need to kind of find a different vet that you maybe are better able to communicate with. Yeah,
and those are things too that you do take home with you. I know it's you talked about not taking it home, but that stuff affects you. I think too, when I was talking to Dr. Dillon when we did his interview, he has enabled the staff to combat these people almost, and really be able to say, like, you will not treat me like that. This, you can't, which I love because he doesn't want to deal with it up here. And I know you, as the medical director at Lakeview, you have to deal, not just with the public, but with the staff too. And you want them to have the best experience. And I know that you really respect them and everything they do. So it is hard. And I think we saw, like, during COVID, when people weren't allowed in with their animals, we had people, not too happy about that, but then they came back almost, vicious, when they were able to come back in. And you have to have so much respect for these humans that are doing so much for our pets, just like animal, just like human hospitals and human doctors, those people are just amazing. I have so much respect for nurses and doctors. But yes, Dr. Bean, thank you for all you do. And if you have any more mean people, just send them my way. Me and Mabel.
I will. I think luckily, again, the vast majority of my clients and the people that we deal with are fantastic. And I love going to work and talking with them and working with them. It is a very small vocal minority that can make it harder. And kind of like you said, COVID especially, I think changed everything. And, people were especially extra stressed during that time, which again is understanding. And I think unfortunately, because we were still open, we were still seeing pets, we oftentimes would take the brunt of that kind of anxiety and stress.
Yeah, it is hard. Yeah. And the dogs that came from COVID, unfortunately, are some really difficult dogs and cats. I see them in my pet care business a lot, and they're very special. But it's because, you know, people didn't leave their house for like a year, so it's understandable. But yes, thank you for all you do. We love Boulevard Vet. You're so knowledgeable. I appreciate you so much. And give my love to everybody back at Lakeview Boulevard.
I will. I'll give your love to Dr. Josie, a Boulevard alumni and my former classmates.
Yeah,
she's
great.
Like you said, she's doing concierge vet, and I mean that I imagine, you know, she's having some very intimate, you know, client relationships there, because I think she has kind of a limited client list where, you know, she, you know, really puts a lot into those relationships. And, you know, there's so many things you can do with a veterinary degree. I'm probably, you know, small animal general practice, which is what I do, is probably the most common, but I mean, you can do, you know, she's a concierge vet. You can do lab animal medicine. You can be a zoo vet. You can do lab animals. You know, I have friends that work in corporate offices for some of the pet food companies and drug companies. So, I mean, you really can do anything with it, or, you know, a lot of things that I don't think that people realize.
Okay, so if I had to ask you, I hate when people ask me this question, by the way. Like, can you see yourself in 5 years? Will you still be, I don't want to chase you around. You know, I've already chased you from Logan Square to Lakeview, but can you see yourself possibly doing something like a concierge vet?
I don't know. I mean, 5 years, honestly, I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. So, you know, you honestly never know what's going to happen in life and what opportunities are going to come your way. And, you know, I have an open mind for anything that comes my way, and who knows where life is going to take me or you or any of us. So I'm here for the ride, and you know, we'll see what happens.
I love that. That's a good answer. It's very PC, but you leave the door open. Dr. Dillon, don't listen where he's.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, and don't get me, I'm very happy where I'm at. You know, I love my job, but yeah, I mean, you have no idea what's going to happen in a week, 2 weeks, a month,
so true,
a year.
I know the 5-year question, or like even like a year. I always say I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. Like until I wake up tomorrow, look at my schedule, I don't even know. Like we don't know. It's better off that way, right?
I think so. I think, hey, like you can only plan so much. I think what's the saying? It's like, you know, the best laid plans are God's playthings. You know, because who knows?
That's right. Dr. Bean, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time. I know how valuable it is.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Always good to see Miss Mabel. She's a social media star now. She's you know, she's been doing her you know, her volunteer work now.
Yes, we're official. Did you see her badge, by the way?
I did see her badge. I saw it. I'm glad all of her paperwork got approved that we filled out.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, Dr. Bean was instrumental. For those of you that don't follow my personal, or Miss Mabel, what are you doing, first of all, if you don't follow her? She's going to be a therapy dog at the hospital right down the street from us, Northwest Community. So we got to visit with 4 patients last week, and they all really loved her. I'm so excited. She's going to make so many people happy that are having rough times in the hospital. So thank you for your help with that. We made it work out.
Oh yeah, I mean, and Miss Mabel, I mean, like you said, you know, they're having hard times in the hospital. I think Mabel is a testament through living through hard times. You know, she had her health issues. She's been through it, but she came out the other side and is doing great. And, you know, I think her story can definitely resonate with, you know, some of these people that are, you know, maybe in a similar situation with her.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm hoping. Dr. Bean, everybody, if you're looking for a new vet or you get a new dog, go to Lakeview Boulevard or go to any of the boulevards. They're all awesome. They also have a cat-centric one. Where's that one? Ravenswood? It's
like attached to the Ravenswood location. So it's all like up in Ravenswood.
Yeah. So
and there Dr. Lanier, she's the vet lady there, she's our cat lady at Boulevard. I call her if I have a question about a cat or want an opinion. So she's great.
And by the way, Dr. Bean, like cats are his jam as well. So
I would say, I know this is a hot take, but I will say I am more of a cat person myself than a dog person. Don't get me wrong. I love a dog. I grew up with dogs. I tell everybody I get my fill of dogs at work. I don't have to take care of them at home. I get all the love and everything I need at work.
That's true. And he's very good, by the way, with cats, because when we were filming one time, a cat did not want to get out of the little whatever carrier, and he was like, "Okay, we're good. We'll get the test. We'll do it. You're very good." And even like Einstein, who wanted to bite you, you're very good. He's very gentle, fear-free. It's awesome. Boulevard. Thank you, Dr. Bean. Have a good night.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Dr. Bean, everybody. Boulevard Vet. Thank you for listening and watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.